I'm sure you have someone like this around you. Don't you find it strange how someone who was once unremarkable suddenly starts to shine at a certain point in a time? Why did only they change when they're in the same environment and doing the same job? Throughout my 94 years of life, I have seen many such people. And I realized something. People who experience rapid growth always have a moment of change. At first, neither the person themselves nor those around them often notice this moment. But if you observe closely, a clear sign appears. That moment will surely come for you too. In fact, it may have already arrived, and you just haven't noticed it yet. Today, I'll teach you the secret to not missing that moment and how to prepare your environment when it comes. Your life may change. Throughout my 94 years of life, I have seen countless people and realized something. People who experience rapid growth always have three things in common: the strength to rise from the bottom, the ability to turn small experiences into big lessons, and the power to settle into a higher level. When these three things are in place, a person can truly change. Now I'll share those secrets with you based on my own real-life experiences. Chapter 1. The one with the will to rise versus the one without a first. I want to say that people who experience rapid growth aren't those who started out in a privileged environment. In fact, it's the opposite. People who have risen from the bottom are the ones who become truly strong. When I was just 9 years old in 1904, my family was poor, and I was sent to work as an apprentice at the Godai bicycle shop in Osaka. The treatment I received there was terrible. I did chores from morning till night and was yelled at for the slightest mistake. My salary was practically non-existent, and some days I didn't even get enough to eat. Several other apprentices started at the same time, but they all quit, saying, "There's no point staying here. I'm going home." But I was different. It was certainly hard, but I felt that if I ran away, I would never be able to rise up in life. Every day, I desperately learned my job while being scolded by my seniors and the foreman: how to clean, how to serve customers, how to handle products. Each one was a small thing, but I did it with all my might. People around me said I was incompetent, but I continued anyway. 3 years later, the foreman said to me, "You're different from the other apprentices. You have the guts to keep going without giving up." That was the first time my efforts were recognized. It's the same today. There's probably someone like that at your workplace too. They were completely useless at first, but before you know it, they've become a central figure. Those people have always experienced a time when they weren't in the spotlight. The important thing is how you spend that time. Do you complain and run away, or do you quietly build your foundation? People who experience rapid growth always choose the latter because they know that's when they'll build their true strength. Later, there was a man who worked at my company. He was a university graduate, very smart, and confident in his interview. But this man was too used to being the center of attention. When he joined the company and was, of course, expected to start with low-level work, he began saying, "This kind of work is beneath me." And he started to slack off when no one was looking. In the end, he quit after 3 years, saying that the environment wasn't suitable for his talents. But the truth was different. He didn't understand that you build your strength when you're not in the spotlight. I want you to remember this. People who experience rapid growth value the time when no one is paying attention to them. How well you build your foundation during that period determines your future growth. If you're struggling because you're not getting recognition right now, it's a chance. Quietly build your skills when no one is watching. Someone will always be watching, and your efforts will definitely be rewarded. However, just working hard isn't enough. People who experience rapid growth have another important ability: the power to turn small daily experiences into big lessons. Now I'll talk about that. Chapter 2, turning each experience into a continuous line. What's the fundamental difference between people who experience rapid growth and those who don't? It's whether they have the ability to not let each experience end as a single point, but to connect them into a line. Let me tell you a story from when I was 23 in 1918, when I had an electronics store in Osaka. Back then, electronics were still a novelty, and customers would look at products with a lot of skepticism. One day, a good customer came in and decided to buy an electric fan. I was so happy and explained it with all my might. But the next day, the customer came back to return the product, saying they didn't want it after all. I was incredibly frustrated. But I didn't let it end there. I desperately thought about why the customer returned it. The next week, another customer came to look at the same fan. This time I remembered my previous failure and changed my explanation. Instead of just talking about the product's features, I talked specifically about how it would make their life more convenient. The customer was happy and bought it. The month after that, another customer was having a hard time deciding on a different product. I realized something. What's important isn't selling products, but improving the customer's life. It was the moment when all my previous failures and successes connected into a single line. This is the characteristic of people who experience rapid growth. They don't let each event end as a single point. They always try to learn something from that experience and use it for the next time. It's the same at your workplace. When you're scolded by your boss, when you receive a complaint from a customer, or when you have a disagreement with a colleague, there are two types of people: those who blame it on bad luck or a bad person, and those who think, why did this happen? What should I do next time? People who experience rapid growth always choose the latter. And then, at some point, a moment will come when all the experiences that you thought were separate suddenly connect. That's when you experience a sudden burst of growth. At my company, there was a salesman like that. When he failed at a sale, he would just say, the customer was in a bad mood today. I had bad luck. Each one was a small failure to be sure, but he kept repeating the same mistakes for 6 months, then a year. Why? Because he wasn't learning from his individual experiences. On the other hand, a salesman who experienced rapid growth would always write in a notebook every time he failed, why he failed and what he should do next time. And he would occasionally look back at that notebook to find common patterns. As a result, his sales performance became top class in just 6 months. I want you to do this too. At the end of each day, set aside time to reflect on what happened. What did you learn from what went well and what didn't? And once a month, look back at your past experiences and look for common patterns. You'll surely start to see patterns you never noticed before. That's the moment when your points will become a line. However, to find this line, you need one more important ability. It's the power to turn specific experiences into abstract rules. The speed of growth is completely different between those who can do this and those who can't. Chapter 3. The one with abstract thinking versus the one without. People who experience rapid growth don't just take what's in front of them at face value. They always try to find the underlying rule or principle. This is abstract thinking. In 1929, the fourth year of the Showa era, my company was in a terrible crisis due to the Great Depression. Sales plummeted, and we couldn't even pay our employees' salaries. At the time, the executives held a meeting to discuss countermeasures. Everyone was just talking about immediate problems: how to manage this month's cash flow, which factory to close, which product to stop producing. These were all important issues, of course, but I was thinking about the real problem behind them. Why did our company fall into such a crisis so easily? Were other companies facing the same problems? And how would the world change after the Depression ended? That's when I realized it. This crisis wasn't just a sales problem. It was a sign of a change in people's lives, a shift in the times. If that was the case, we had to change too. I made a decision. Instead of closing a factory, I would invest in developing new products. Everyone was against it, but I was confident. A new era would surely come after the Depression. We had to prepare for it now. As a result, after the Depression ended, my company was able to recover faster than others. That's because I didn't just deal with individual problems. I read the overall trend. This is the power of abstract thinking. Not being swayed by specific problems in front of you, but reading the big trend behind them and taking countermeasures accordingly. It's the same in your job. When your boss gets angry, don't just conclude, this boss is strict. Think about why they got angry and what's expected in this company. When you receive a complaint from a customer, don't just think, this customer is too sensitive. Think about what the customer really wants and how the overall market needs are changing. By doing this, you find abstract rules from specific events. People who can do this will never be troubled by the same problem twice. At my company, there was also a person who was always caught up in individual problems. When a customer complained, he would deal with it on a case-by-case basis. Let's send an apology letter to this customer. Let's give a discount to the next customer. But the fundamental problem was never solved, so similar complaints kept coming, and he would continue to deal with them on a case-by-case basis. It was a repeating cycle. On the other hand, a person who experienced rapid growth was different. They would analyze the content of the complaints and think about why there were so many of them, where the problem with the product was, and what the customers really wanted. And they would propose a fundamental solution. As a result, complaints decreased dramatically, and that person was promoted to quality control manager. I want you to try this too. When a problem occurs, first ask why. 3 times. For example, if a sales pitch didn't go well, ask, why didn't it go well? Because I didn't understand the customer's needs. Why didn't I understand? Because my prior research was insufficient. Why was my research insufficient? Because I didn't know how to do the research. By digging deeper this way, you can see the real problem, and then you can think about a solution. This is the first step of abstract thinking. However, there are also several patterns of abstract thinking. In the case of especially gifted people, they can do it unconsciously. Now I'll talk about that. Chapter 4, the awakening pattern of gifted people. Among people who experience rapid growth, some seem to grow steadily without appearing to make any special effort. These people unconsciously grasp the secrets of growth with their high level of competence. Around 1960, a young engineer joined my company. He was a university graduate, and he was a genius. When I first gave him technical guidance, he would understand everything after a single explanation from his senior. And he didn't just understand it, he could immediately apply it. He would ask questions that would surprise us like, I see. In that case, what about this situation? It would normally take a week to learn one technique, but this guy would learn it in a day. And the next day, he would be eager to learn the next technique. I was truly envious to watch him. But his truly amazing ability wasn't just that he learned fast, it was that he could apply the techniques he learned to other fields. When he learned electrical techniques, he would apply them to the field of mechanics. When he learned mechanical techniques, he would apply them to the field of materials. Within 6 months, this newcomer was able to talk on equal terms with veteran engineers. Why? Because he unconsciously understood the common principles behind the individual techniques. I observed this man and realized something. Gifted people can connect points without consciously thinking about it. Each individual thing they learn naturally connects to their overall understanding. You probably have someone like this around you too. They learn new things instantly and understand even more than what they were taught. The characteristic of these people is that they're good at pattern recognition. When they learn something, they don't just learn that one thing. They naturally look for similar patterns and find commonalities that they can apply in other situations. That's why even with the same amount of time spent on learning, a gifted person grows overwhelmingly faster. It's because one thing they learn benefits everything else. But people who aren't gifted don't need to worry. You just have to consciously do what gifted people do unconsciously. There's also a pitfall to being gifted. At my company, there was a person who failed because he was too gifted. He could learn anything quickly, so he stopped thinking deeply. He was satisfied with a superficial understanding and didn't grasp the true essence. At first, he got by with that, but as he was assigned more difficult tasks, his superficial understanding wasn't enough to handle them. As a result, he made a big mistake and lost his confidence. Giftedness is a weapon, but you shouldn't rely on it alone. It's important to build a solid foundation. If you're a gifted type, I want you to make the most of that ability. When you learn something new, get into the habit of thinking, this is similar to that thing I learned before. If you think you're not gifted, don't worry. You just have to consciously do what gifted people do unconsciously. When you learn something, think about what other things it can be applied to. The important thing is not to let what you've learned become isolated. Think about everything as connected. If you can do that, you'll surely grow, regardless of whether you're gifted or not. So far, I've talked about the process of growth, but what happens after rapid growth is actually the most important thing. Many people who reach a higher level end up returning to their original level. Why? Chapter 5. The one who creates a place for themselves at a higher level. The difference between people who experience rapid growth and those who only grow temporarily lies in their mindset when they reach a higher level. Truly successful people make that higher level their home. This is a story from the 1960s when my company became nationally famous and joined the ranks of top companies in the industry. Until then, we were just one electronics company in Osaka, but we suddenly found ourselves on par with the presidents of big national companies. To be honest, at first, I felt out of place. When I attended business meetings, everyone was a graduate of a prestigious university and spoke in a refined manner. I wasn't educated and spoke with a strong Kansai dialect, so there were times I wondered if I belonged there. But then I realized something. This place I'm in right now is a place I earned through my efforts, so I have a right to be here. From then on, I changed my mindset. Instead of thinking I was out of place, I started thinking I was a person who should be there. And I tried to learn everything I could from that environment, and how other presidents talked, their way of thinking, and their approach to work. I observed everything and adopted the good parts. But I didn't lose my own identity. I didn't change my Kansai dialect and cherished my common sense approach. Before I knew it, I had completely fit into that environment. Other presidents started treating me as an equal, and I could no longer go back to the mindset of running a small electronics store. This is what's important after rapid growth. Your future is decided by whether you think you don't have the right to be at a higher level or if you think you're a person who should be there. You've probably experienced this too. When you get promoted, move to a new workplace, or start working with people at a higher level than you, some people shrink back while others stand tall. The person who shrinks back thinks they're out of place and unconsciously tries to return to their original level. The person who stands tall thinks they belong there and tries to adapt to that environment. This difference greatly influences your future growth. At my company, there was a man who was a great salesman and was promoted to sales manager at the head office. But when he came to the head office, he lost his confidence for some reason. He started saying that he was better suited for sales at the branch office and that the work at the head office was too much for him. In the end, he returned to the branch office after 6 months. But even after he returned, he couldn't perform as he had before. Why? Because he had experienced a higher level, and the work at the branch office no longer felt challenging enough. He was in a state of limbo. This is a classic pattern of someone who couldn't create a place for themselves at a higher level. If you ever get to a higher level, I want you to remember this. The level you're at is a legitimate position you earned through your efforts. So you don't need to shrink back. You can stand tall. But don't forget to be humble. Learn everything you can in that environment and think about how you can improve yourself even more. And make a firm decision that you will never return to your original level. That decision will help you truly grow. Finally, I'll tell you the most important secret to ensuring rapid growth doesn't just end up being a temporary thing. It's about how to create an environment for continuous growth. Chapter 6. The secret to sustaining rapid growth. A truly successful person isn't satisfied with a single burst of rapid growth. They create a system for continuous growth and keep learning until they die. I'll tell you that secret now. This is a story from when I was over 70. Many people told me it was time to retire, but I had no intention of doing so. That's because I still had so much to learn. So I created my own system for continuous growth. First, I decided to learn one new thing every day. It could be reading a book or listening to someone talk. It could be something small, but I would always learn something new. Next, I made sure to talk about what I learned with someone. Whether it was an employee, a family member, or a friend, talking to someone deepens my own understanding and allows me to get new perspectives from them. And the most important thing I did was to interact with people who were better than me. I always talked to employees who were my son's or grandson's age. Listening to their way of thinking helped me sense the changes of the times. I also made it a point not to be afraid of failure. Even after I turned 70, I continued to take on new challenges. Things didn't always go well, but I saw even those as learning experiences. That's how I was able to continue growing until I died. The reason I didn't lose momentum after my rapid growth was because I had this system. I really want you to create this system for yourself. The period after rapid growth is actually the most dangerous time. Many people get complacent the moment they grow and stop learning. But we live in a time of intense change. What was common sense yesterday can become outdated today. So the moment you stop growing, you get left behind. The important thing is to make growth a habit. Keep learning new things, even if it's just a little bit every day, and practice what you've learned and share it with others. If you keep doing this, you'll surely be able to continue growing. I had a friend who stopped growing after a period of rapid growth. He became a company executive in his 40s and convinced himself that he was successful enough. After that, he stopped trying to learn new things. He would say he had enough experience and there was nothing left for him to learn. But times changed and his experience and knowledge were no longer relevant. Before he knew it, his subordinates had more up-to-date knowledge and he was left behind. In the end, he had to take early retirement. It's a classic example of someone who grew but couldn't maintain it. I don't want you to end up like that. That's why I want you to make growth a habit, starting now. Before you go to sleep every night, think of one thing you learned today. Have a new conversation with at least one person every week. Read a book from a new field every month. And once a year, take on a challenge that's a little bit difficult for you. It's okay to fail. The act of challenging yourself is what leads to growth. To summarize the characteristics of people who experience rapid growth, first, they quietly build a foundation during the time they're not in the spotlight. Next, they connect each experience into a line and find the overall rule. Then, they grasp the essence through abstract thinking. Gifted people can do this unconsciously. After rapid growth, they create a place for themselves at a higher level. And they make growth a habit and continue learning until they die. If you can do this, you will surely experience rapid growth, and you'll be able to continue that growth for a lifetime. Finally, I want to tell you just one more thing. It's natural to want to become someone who experiences rapid growth. But the most important thing isn't to grow, but to use that growth to be useful to the world. What I learned in my 94 years of life is that truly valuable growth isn't just for yourself. It's about making the people around you happy and making society better. That's true success. Even if you experience rapid growth, that's not the end. I want you to think about what kind of contribution you can make with that growth. If you do, your growth will be genuine and will surely last. I believe in you. The moment of rapid growth will surely come for you too. I want you to not miss that moment and to firmly grasp it. And I want you to use that growth for the sake of the world. Good luck. What did you think of the words of Konosuke Matsushita? I'm sure there were some parts that resonated with you. If you felt something, please write 100 in the comments. Your comments may become a catalyst to move someone else's heart. Also, if you want to hear more teachings from people like this, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. We will continue to deliver content that will be useful for your life. See you next time.